Hello and welcome to the Author Showcase Series, presented by the South Florida Writers Association, a nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide literary arts and support writers. Today's guest is Sergio Jablon. He has written for film, television, press, and radio in Spanish, English, and Portuguese. Since 2010, Jablon has been the head writer for TelevisaUnivision's Music and Entertainment Division. He recently published his first nonfiction book, A Guy with Cancer Walks into a Bar. The Spanish version of this book, Un tipo con cáncer entra a un bar, won the gold medal at the International Latino Book Awards as Most Inspirational Book of 2024. Sergio, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. And
Great. So when did you first realize you were a writer?
so I always like make up stories and such. And when I was 7, I think I wrote a very long story, and I did it on typewriter. And since then, I always wanted to be a writer, but I was living in Venezuela by then, and I didn't think, or better yet, my family didn't think I will ever made as a writer to have family, make a living, and go to the market, things like that. So I stopped, but I always been writing on the side, and I even study economics.
Mm.
And I end up earning my living as a writer. So when it is for you, you should believe in your dreams. So I always write.
And what was your first job as a writer? Because you had a lot of jobs, it looked like.
Yeah, well, I start writing as a journalist, and then I have some I have opinion columns in kind of small newspapers until I reach a national newspaper, and I was always going toward humor. So one way of make a living as a writer was writing movies or writing TV, especially in Venezuela, where you have this big soap opera market. So they were doing movies for TV, so I wrote one and I sent it to somebody, and I got a meeting, and they told me, "Oh, we love your story, we love your writing, but we're not doing movies anymore.
Mm.
So we have a sketch show. Would you like to write some sketches?" And I say, "Okay, let me check on that. Let me try." So I bought a few books on writing comedy, and I sent some sketches, and they like it, and they hire me. So after that, I start writing sketches for TV and for radio, which is awful because radio eat so much script daily, which is it's a great school because you have to write a lot, but it's kind of you run out of steam very quickly. Still, I make it for a few years on that, and then they offer me to come write it to the US, where I did some sitcoms and I did some late nights, always for Spanish television. And I end up writing the shows that nobody believes they're being written, like what people say in reality shows and award shows like the Latin Grammys and the Premio Lo Nuestro and all that things. So, and I'm having a lot of fun with that. I wrote a novel and I wrote a lot of stuff, and I always thought of myself as a fiction writer. Then I was diagnosed with cancer. First was a misdiagnosed, and then it was another, and then they found another one where they were treating. So I said, maybe this thing of being diagnosed with 3 types of different cancers in less than a year, it's an interesting story. And I start, of course, as a writer, and maybe mostly as a reader more than I consider myself a better reader than a writer, to be honest. And so I started looking for books on cancer. And I didn't like them because most of them were very religious, like
Oh,
this is
well.
something that is going to pass, or they were very scientific. And it's like there must be another kind of book that could be written about this. And I wanted to do a book that was, you could be reading it like it was an adventure book. Like, okay, cancer is an adventure or can be seen also as an adventure. And that's how this book came about, since I always work with humor. And I think the best way to stop being afraid of something, if you can laugh about it, then I said, maybe I can go there. I know it was a tightrope because um, it's very easy to offend when it's something as serious and as scary as cancer. So I try to be as honest as possible, and I think the result. I'm very proud of the result and the way people are responding to that.
Great. And was there anything you could take from your years of writing movies and television and radio
I,
into
I
writing nonfiction?
I think yes, because I wanted the pace of the book to be something that grabs you. And I wanted to have a pace that could be also very fast and dynamic, and also, but again, trying to do it as a good book. I didn't want to be an awful book. So I think I put a lot of things there on how to end chapters and how to do a lot of stuff that helped me a lot, but also helped me during the the treatment, because I was there writing, and my wife always tell me, people are telling me that you are not okay. You shouldn't, maybe you shouldn't be doing this. But I was writing all the time. Of course, once I finished, I said, okay, now I have a bunch of notes. Let's see if I can make this into a book.
Okay.
And then start the rewriting process. And it was funny because I first wrote it in Spanish, and then I started the English version. And while I was doing the English version, I had to change a lot of jokes and names of chapters and a lot of things that doesn't make much sense. I started seeing, I can do the, I like this better in the English version. So let me go back. So end up being a process of back and forward between the two books that I think made them made them both a little better. I don't know if they're great or anything like that, but it helped each other, the two processes.
Did you try it all? How is it different as a translator? Did you try it all punching it into Google Translate and to see what happened?
I first I try a program called DeepL, and then I start reading it, and I saw that I'm not kidding. Every line has a mistake, but it was a base. So I work on that. And as I said, I change the things, and then I send it to a PhD professor on grammatics to see it all. And then I receive that and I work a little bit. And then I gave it to a couple of friends. One of them had read the book in Spanish, and he told me, okay, this is great, but the conversational tone that you have in your Spanish book is not here yet. So I took that book and I spent the next 6 months on that, trying to change the style. So after that, I gave it to another. My poor friends had to read a lot. So I gave it to another friend, this one that didn't speak Spanish at all. And she read the book, and I say, okay, so she liked it. And I say, okay, so how did you feel it? They went, well, I felt like we were at a diner and you were telling me your story. And I said, oh, okay. So I made it. And this is the one that's going to work.
And
But it
you
was
were
a complicated process and helped me a lot because while I was working on this, again, I had to change the things in Spanish.
and you were saying before the jokes, the jokes for America didn't work for Venezuela. Can you explain the differences in humor in Spanish language and English language, or America, Venezuela? Can you explain the different
Well,
sorts of
there
humor?
is a difference between the kind of humor, but mostly because there are in the case of the book, it's because there's a lot of play on words.
Mm,
Like for instance, I had to do a radiation therapy. Well, you have to take a pill. In Spanish, the name of that chapter is La toma de la pastilla, which is like the take of the Bastille in France.
okay.
But it's pastilla, and you have to take on. Okay, that in English has no sense. So that chapter in English became Jagged Little Pill. And as of that, there's a lot of things. I have a lot of reference to music or to things that made sense for a Hispanic audience, but not necessarily to an English speaking audience. So all those references also have to change. But going into the humor, which is not what happened in the book, because the style of the book, I hope, is the same in any. I think the humor in Latin America is very physical and it's also very urgent because of the circumstances. You have, for instance, when I told my colleagues that the most successful sitcom in Latin American history is called El Chavo, and it's about a orphan homeless that live in a barrel and everybody beats him. You telling me they like what? And the comedy in the US, it's has the luxury of being more, if you want, um, it's the most intertwined, and you can go into things like a whole episode could be about the crisis between a parent and the kid's baseball coach. And that is something that you can work on. So it's more sophisticated in that sense. So it's very interesting. That is for TV. Now, in writing, you have amazing examples on all of it. It's and the difference here goes again, even in Latin America, it's like British humor and American humor. There is a difference. So it's all over. But I think that if you like to laugh or things like that, you will appreciate the differences, and you can laugh and enjoy different kind of humor. With this book, it was funny because it's not all the time funny because there's a lot of things. But I gave it to a friend, and she has a daughter which by the time was around 14. And the next day she asked, "Okay, mom, so what were you watching on TV that you were laughing so hard?" And told me, "Oh no, it's a book of a friend that had cancer." So what? And you were laughing about that? So I said, "Yes, I'm making."
Eh, Um, so you seem to have a lot of energy now. I'm trusting your cancer is in
Well,
remission.
kind of,
Kind of
because
okay.
one of them, it's a multiple myeloma. It's a cancer that cannot be cured. So I'm
Oh, okay.
taking uh, chemo in small doses. And every now and then I very scared because I have to do a biopsy and see if this time it hasn't come back. And it, but I also learned that even people that are in remission, cancer is like a ghost that's always there. And
Hmm.
that's one of the things that I want to fight with this book because um, cancer has always been seen as a battle. I don't know why, because it's not a battle, it's a condition. And you have to learn to live with it. And to live with it, you because if it's not in you, it's in something someone you love, it's in somebody you you admire, it's always there. So seeing it as a battle doesn't help. I also want to have the title cancer, the word cancer in the title without being scary.
Okay.
So if you put a guy with cancer walks into a bar, I didn't need like a second title of things that explain, and it looks like the beginning of a joke.
Yes, yes. Are
So
you working on anything now? Now that this
yes,
book is out in the world?
yeah, I'm working. I started like a chronicles that continues this first book, and I also writing a novel, which is right now it's a kind of funny, but it's also about the biographic gender that I like the genre, and it's the notes of a poet that has to write the biography of another poet that he hates. So he has to do it, but he hates him so much. So I'm working on that, and I'm working on Premios Juventud, which is in 20 days from now.
Oh, great, great. So that's why you're a busy man. So you're a member of the South Florida Writers Association. You're based down here. How has South Florida influenced you as a writer?
I like very much being in South Florida, and I think it influenced me a lot because you have a lot of languages down here, and you have to be able, especially if you work in Hispanic TV, you have 22 different nationalities that are watching your shows, and you want them to understand. And they don't use the same words all the time.
Mm,
And sometimes a word that it's completely naive in one country, it's a big insult in another one. So you have to do that. And also, it gave me permission to start writing different things. Again, the cancer is a parenthesis between this, but the approach is something that I think it helped me a lot being here because it's very hard to be down and depressed when you have this great sun
mm.
and reggaeton in the car next to you and people dancing. So it's like, maybe I shouldn't be this piece of the world.
Great. And anything else you want to say that we haven't gone over to the viewers watching?
Please read the book. Uh, I know it's scary to recommend a book about a person that had cancer, but it's not about cancer. It's about life, actually. And one of the things that pushed me through this is I have two daughters. They're old. I mean, they're old because I see them as little kids, and I always tell them as my little daughters. But they're 25, and one's about to turn 23. So um, it's something that I want to leave to them. So I didn't want to be a downer, but I wanted to be an interesting thing and to change the way people look at cancer because there's a stigma associated with the word, and people start treating you differently once they know you have cancer. They can't help it. It's something, and it's so common. Like I was reading every day in the US, there's around 5,000 people that are being diagnosed with cancer for the first time. And when I read that, I said, okay, this is considering 365 days, but doctors do not do this diagnosis on Saturdays and Sundays,
Mm,
and not even in holidays. So it's more like 7,000 people being diagnosed. It's a very common disease, and it's very common to go into remission. So we have to start thinking about this as a condition And the first step is to normalize it, to stop being afraid of the word. It's not easy because once you start treatment, it's like a piano on your head. But you can still have moments of happiness and of hope, and you can still be the same person that you were before during treatment. It's not like everybody gets better or it's an angel because it had cancer. There's a lot of dictators that had cancer and they didn't become good people after the diagnosis. But it's something common and we have to deal with it. We have to be able to talk about it, and we don't. So
Well, thank you, Sergio, for the insight and congratulations on the book.
thank you.
Um,
I like it.
and thank you all for watching. We will see you
Okay.
next time.